Okay. It's been a minute since I've done a live. Mostly I've been doing lives to get rid of my chairs in the back, which, by the way, I got rid of. I ended up calling 1-800-JUNK. Paid $100 for them to get rid of it. Not my ideal way of getting rid of things. I usually try and get someone to take it for me so I don't have to pay, stuff like that. But it all got taken care of. Anyway. I've been diving into some recovery stuff lately. Oh my gosh, my hair is a mess. Sorry. And I can't remember where I got this little booklet. Since it's not part of the recovery program I'm in, I can probably read it and share it. I'm not exactly sure where I got it. I think I got it from one of my travels. It may have been in Arizona or something, but it's called Setting Boundaries by Veronica Ray. It's like a little cute pocket book. You can keep this in your pocket and pull it out whenever. My problem is I collect books. I collect a lot of books, and I just don't really sit down and read them like I should. I've really come to love Audible. That's one of my favorite ways to listen to books because I'm always on the go. But I'm trying to get better at taking some time to sit down, be more reflective, and actually read. And my reading comprehension and absorption has improved over time, especially since I read to my daughter almost every night. So it's really helped me gain stamina back for reading. So yeah. So I'm trying to think where I could start with this book. I mean, I could start with the introduction, but I'm just going to read... You know what? Yeah, I'll read the introduction. Stick with me. It's a bit of a read, but I promise you there's good shit here. So, introduction. Codependents need boundaries. We need to set limits on what we shall do and for people. We need to set limits on what we will allow people to do and for us. The people we relate to need to know we have boundaries. Melody Beattie. Setting boundaries begins our recovery from the side effects of our relationships with addicted, compulsive, or abusive people. As Melody Beattie wrote, we need to set limits on what we will give others and to what we will take from them. We need to let others know where our boundaries are and that we are serious about them. Then we need to change our behavior accordingly, backing ourselves up with positive action. By setting clear boundaries on our behavior and what we will accept from others, we begin to take back our lives from being controlled by other people's thoughts, feelings, and problems. We claim ownership of and responsibility for ourselves. Setting limits doesn't mean intolerance or selfishness. It means refusing to allow ourselves to be harmed. It means accepting responsibility for our own beliefs, feelings, and actions. It means learning how to take care of ourselves one day at a time. Choices. So each page has a little word at the top there, and then it goes into what that is. Choices. Feeling compelled to control or react to others is a part of codependency. Recovery means discovering all our other options. We don't have to let others and their problems and addictions control us. We have choices. Recognizing that we do have choices is the beginning of freeing ourselves from codependency. Taking responsibility for these choices and making them requires vigilance. In many situations, old compulsive habits will probably surface first, but we can choose not to act on them and instead turn our attention to other options. We have the ability, the right, and the responsibility to choose how we will think, feel, and act in every case. And with our higher powers' help, we can make the best choices for us. It says, I will not allow my feelings, thoughts, or actions to be dictated by others. This one's taking a break. In the middle of conversations, arguments, or even thoughts about our relationships, we often can't see things clearly. we can be so influenced by others that we become confused about what we think and how we feel. It can help us to stop talking, yelling, or thinking about a conflict we have with someone else for a while. We can let go for a few minutes and clear our minds. Just leaving the room for a moment can often help us regain our focus. We can take a walk, say a prayer, or just close our eyes and go to that place in our thoughts where we feel calm, serene, and whole. Melody Beattie wrote in Codependent No More, "There is little in our lives we need to do that we cannot do better if we are peaceful. Take a moment to get peaceful." And then it has a little, saying on the bottom of each page, "I will honor myself by taking a break from others when I need to." Relationships. Relationships have an important place in our lives. We interact with family members, friends, coworkers, employers, or employees, neighbors, clients, and others every day. Sometimes these relationships take up most of our time and energy. We lose our focus on work, other interests, and personal growth. We develop codependent behaviors such as caretaking, controlling, obsessing, denial, and dependency. We can learn to have relationships without letting them control our thoughts, behaviors, and choices. Healthy relationships don't take over our lives and stop our growth. They enhance our lives and provide opportunities for us to learn and teach. They don't determine who we are. They help us discover our true selves. And then it says, "I can keep myself focused on on my growth and well-being." Some people may not know what caretaking is. I mean, in the simplest way I can put it, it's doing something for somebody else that you assume that they can't do for themselves. Now, if somebody was bedridden or incapable of doing something, then I would consider that more service. But if you are constantly meddling and interfering and leading somebody, or doing things for them, you end up becoming resentful because it's like, oh, I'm always doing my husband's laundry. I'm always making him sandwiches for work. Or I'm just giving random examples, not based in truth. I'm just, this could be true for anybody. But that's what I feel like caretaking really is. It's just I'm not taking care of myself. I'm focusing too much on others. And, oh yeah, I've been guilty of that. That's why I have a recovery program, because of that very thing. So I'm healing from that. Learning the balance between, hey, I'm serving you, I'm giving of myself, I'm being Christ-like, whatever you want to call it, versus I'm doing so much for you that I don't get my things done and my responsibilities done. This is also a difficult task or a difficult concept to think about with children, because children depend on us, and it's hard because we have to meet these children at certain ages. Oh, you're a literal baby. You can't do anything. I have to completely care for you. And as they get older, we give them pieces of independence, hopefully, so that by the time they're a certain age, they can do certain tasks on their own. For example, I did laundry by the time I was 10. I could make a basic sandwich and eggs and do, all kinds of things for myself. But I'm teaching my child, I'm not your maid, I'm not going to clean up after you. You have capability of going and grabbing that garbage. Now, if her hands are full and she needs that one last thing and she can't carry it, I'll carry it for her. Sometimes it's okay, So that's something that I'm still teaching my own child. And it is an interesting juxtaposition to be here, where I'm learning how to not be codependent, but also teaching my child not to be codependent, or not putting it on me. So we're learning from each other about that. Anyway, caretaking, very interesting and kind of, confusing subject, because it's am I caretaking or am I being of service? So, perfect segue to balance. A good, healthy relationship includes balancing time alone and time together, dependence and independence, giving and receiving, saying yes and saying no. This doesn't mean that everything is carefully divided down the middle. We don't keep score of hours spent together, or the number of times we give and receive favors, or the way in which we are dependent and independent. But imbalance in these areas may make us feel discomfort that signals our need to find a better balance. Balance is giving generously, knowing there is plenty for us too. It's receiving without guilt and saying yes because we know we can say no. We can also say no. It's trust that the relationship isn't harmed by time apart or differences of opinion. It's enjoying the low tide, secure in the knowledge that the high tide will come again. And then it says, I maintain balance in my relationships, trusting their constant ebb and flow. That's something I'm personally dealing with. Sorry, babe. You know, my husband and I are very different people. Chris is a wonderful man. I'm a good person. He's a good person. But we each have very different ways of going about things. And one of our biggest challenges is knowing that if I get space, I'm not leaving a relationship. If we take time apart. We were having a disagreement last night, and I said, can we please stop for now? Because the food I had made was prepared and ready to be eaten. And I was very tired and hungry, and I have to think about the word halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That if those needs aren't met first for myself, then I need to stop trying to fix or solve or whatever a situation that I'm going through. And something I'm getting better at is knowing when to come back to a conversation so it just doesn't get swept under the rug. So, I said, can we take a break from this conversation? Sometimes we say when we're going to come back to the conversation, but a lot of the times it just naturally comes back around because it will continue to persist and it will come up again. So I think there's balance in that. And there's a reason why my husband and I live separately because I need time alone and he does too. And I need my own space and so does he. So we're finding our own balance and making this, making it work. And that could go for anything, a friendship, a child-parent relationship, anything like that. So employer-employee, anything like that. Taking risks. When we begin taking care of ourselves, many areas of our lives may change. Old relationships may be altered or ended. New relationships may be formed. Long-standing patterns of behavior may no longer fit into our lives. Letting go of old habits can feel as though we're risking our safety and comfort. But when we go ahead and make the changes we need to for our well-being and growth, we find the risks are well worth taking. Only when we risk losing some of our old ways of living can we open up to new, better ones. Trusting our higher power, and higher power could be anything. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. It could be, just the trees and nature. So whatever that looks like. Trusting our higher power, we can let go of our dependence on others and find ourselves. We can stop letting ourselves be hurt and discover the alternative isn't worse but much better. With our higher power's guidance, taking risks is far safer than standing still. And the bottom says, I ask my higher power for guidance and courage to take the risks I need to take. I don't always know what my higher power looks like, but it's becoming more solidified for me, and it changes too. But I know that whatever it is, it could be the pillow next to me. I'm going to just say, look, I can't do this. You can. That's just the simplest way I can put that. I don't have the capability with my fallible mind and my flaws to take care of this on my own. I'm exhausted. Please take this from me and carry it for me and transmute it into something I can understand. So that's kind of how I see that. Responsibility. And by the way, thank you for sticking with me. If you've been on camera and you're watching this, sorry, this is a more long-winded one. But I just felt called to read this today. Responsibility. To behave and live responsibly, we need to understand we are each responsible for our decisions, thoughts, attitudes, and actions. We are responsible for our recovery from defective character traits and destructive behavior. As codependents, we may have taken on responsibilities outside ourselves. We may have helped others by covering up for them and removing the consequences of their negative behavior. We may have fulfilled their obligations or tried to control and manipulate their lives. We may have neglected our own responsibilities while we focused on other people's. But others are responsible for themselves, as we are for ourselves. This means that we need to let go of other people's responsibilities and concentrate on our own. It says, I'm fully responsible for myself and let others take responsibility for themselves. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty straightforward in my opinion. I mean, how many times have we done that? All of us. You know, I've definitely... You know, it's funny, like, it could be as simple as, like, my daughter has a habit of leaving dishes and trash around my house. And it's just constant. And I mean, she has undiagnosed ADHD, but I'm pretty sure she has it like me. And, you know, it is hard. Sometimes I've had, you know, laundry out and, like, I can only do so much. I have to break my chores down into little bits. But for the most part, I try to clean up after myself, like the little things, like trash, bowls, dishes, that kind of stuff. I try to get that down to the sink at least. And she just leaves it in my living room. I see little piles, and the other day I'm just cleaning up my stuff, and I see that I had asked her to take, we have this like little like shelf thing outside, and that's where we put the dishes when we don't want to go out downstairs. So that, you know, but I had already asked her to remove whatever was there and take it downstairs, and she did not. Because she got distracted with something else. It happens, but it's just constant. And I said, you'd better take, I wanted her to take it downstairs. She didn't. So I'm now in resent, and I'm like, I go to pick it up, and I'm grumbling and mumbling about how I'm going to have a chat with her, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have to do this today. I don't have to take responsibility for her and remove these dishes or this trash. That's her thing that I asked her to do. So I put it back, and at a later time, she ended up taking it downstairs. And that, yeah, good lesson for myself. I don't have to clean up after her like that. Now, unfortunately, with a child, you do have to remind them. It's different with an adult, right? Although some adults don't know how to clean up after themselves either. And like, I've been married to somebody I had, not my current husband, my previous husband, constantly had to remind him of things. So that's hard, to not want to take responsibility for someone else's shit. I'm reading a comment. This reminds me of our Provo church and the bullies. I'm not sure what you... Oh, yeah. Yeah, in what way, though? Can you be more specific? Like, leave another comment for me. You know what, May? I'll answer that question about ADHD a little later. I'll get to that, because I have thoughts on that. For sure. ADHD is tough. It's a bigger subject, though, and I want to keep reading this. But, yeah, I'll talk to you about it if you have more questions on it. Short answer, for me, at least, I feel like I have OCD tendencies, but it hasn't been officially diagnosed. I'm still like managing and figuring out my ADHD. So anyway, good question. All right. Pleasing ourselves. As codependents, we often spend a lot of our time and energy trying to please others, but we may feel uncomfortable or guilty doing things for ourselves. We may expect other people to take responsibility for our happiness. We may feel we're missing out on the pleasurable side of life. We can learn to please ourselves, making our lives more enjoyable. We can do unto ourselves as we would have others do unto us. In other words, we can treat ourselves as we would like to be treated. We can give ourselves gifts, like a long walk or a hot bath. We can listen to music we like, let the phone ring and not answer it, or cook our favorite meal. We can take ourselves out for a birthday celebration or buy ourselves flowers. I'm thinking of that Miley Cyrus song. I can buy myself flowers. I can hold my own hand. Talk to myself for hours. Learning to please ourselves doesn't make us selfish. It helps make us sane. And it says, today I will spend time and energy on myself. That is something I've really had to learn how to not feel guilty about over the years. That I don't have to go to that party. I don't have to do that thing. I can go home and take care of my own energy and needs. I used to feel like I had to go out to the bar, sing karaoke all the time, do this, that, and the other. I am not chained to anybody like that. I'm an autonomous, free agent, free thinking being. I don't have to do what others do or what others want me to do. So I get to do that for myself today, and it's just like this one day at a time concept. We just do it for today. I'm going to do that for myself and then worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. And that's hard. I'm a chronic overthinker. I often have past tripped, and that's guilt and shame. And then future trip is anxiety. It's yeah. So I'm trying to just please myself today. I'm doing what is good for me. But on the flip side of this, we also have to find the balance that I mentioned earlier, which is, we don't want to be so pleasing of ourselves that we forget to also give, to others. So by pleasing ourselves, we're filling our own bucket, which allows us to then give some of that energy to another person when it's natural and right and feels like the right thing to do. So there we go. I love your comments, May. Yeah. You live for others. No, we aren't selfish. We choose us and thrive. I like being private and being with my husband and dogs. Perfect. There's nothing wrong. That's simplifying our life. Keep it simple is one of the slogans that I am thinking of. You gotta sometimes you just gotta do for yourself what's best. And that's okay. Because the biggest part we have to let go of is nobody, I didn't cause anybody's suffering due to that, and others might project that on you, but see, what others think is none of my business, right? So they might be doing their own thing, but I'm not the one that's gonna take that on for myself. And my thought is, hey, if you have a problem or if you need something, you'll tell me. And then we can discuss whether it is reasonable or feasible for me to do. And I'm going to let you know that. Hey, at this moment in time, I'm not able to do that. I have people come to me and say, and this is the perfect segue to this next one, but I have people come to me and they're like, oh, can you feel this knot on my body? Can you, they'll ask me last minute to schedule them. Sorry if there's any of you that are watching that do that with me. And I just have to say, I don't say no. I say, hey, unfortunately, I don't have a place for you today, but let's find a place for you either this week or next week. Let's find, what is your schedule like? So I turn it into a positive, hey, I can't do that for you today. I'm so sorry. However, and then, sandwich it with a positive statement and helping them get a need met. So, but it doesn't sacrifice my time. I sometimes have over-sacrificed in my own job. Speaking of saying no, we all want to be liked and accepted by others. We want to be thought of as dependable and responsible. We want to belong and feel wanted and needed. But for us codependents, this can become a self-destructive compulsion. We try to fulfill every request made of us. We try to stretch our time and energy to meet the needs and desires of everyone except ourselves. We say yes when we want to say no. Saying no may be a new experience for us, requiring some practice. We can start slowly with little things. We can learn to stop a moment and think about whether we really want to do something before we say yes. We can let go feeling responsible for everything and guilty for sometimes saying no. We can remember our right and responsibility to take care of ourselves. Bottom says, today I will not say yes when I want to say no. This lends to passive aggressiveness. And I think we've all done a bit of that. You, at times, have definitely said yes when you meant to say no. And it's passive aggressive people pleasing. It's because it's like the passive aggressive part comes in when it's like you're saying yes, but you're resenting it the whole damn time you're doing the thing that you said yes to. When you could have just said, hey, I don't have the capacity for this today. That is not something I'm able to do. But can I help you find a way to do it yourself? Or can I put you in touch with somebody who knows how to do this for you today? Can I give you resources and recommendations? I do that all the time with people because I have to focus on my things sometimes. And whether they get upset, mad, angry, not my problem. I have the sticker on I think I have it. You know what? This is perfect. I know it's backwards, but it says, you know what that sounds like? Not my problem. That's what I think about. And I mean, I know that sounds kind of flippant and rude and everything, or sarcastic, but yeah, I can't control how you're going to respond or react to that. Most of the time though, when I do that with people, they're pretty cool about it and like, okay, yeah, sorry that, they'll end up apologizing. Oh, sorry I asked. I'm like, no, don't be sorry you asked. I can't do that for you today. But I'm going to help you find who can help you do that. And that's helped me a lot with, because we were taught in customer service, don't say no to the client. Find a way to say no in a helpful way, but without using the word no. And that was a big skill I had to learn in customer service over the phones. So it's kind of stuck with me. But I used to feel a lot of guilt saying no to my personal family and friends, a lot of it. And I don't anymore. Like if my mom invites me over for dinner and I'm just like last night I said no to her, but I was like, I think I'm going to stay home tonight. I've been out all day. I'd like to just be home with Bryn and Chris. We'll find another time. And my mom is really cool about just being like, all right, cool. So that's, that's a way, if you don't feel comfortable saying no, because no can be a complete sentence, but if you don't feel comfortable with that, find another roundabout way that still gets to the point, but softens the no without saying no. And that can be a way to start practicing saying no. Self-image. Where does the image we have of ourselves come from? Has it been created by what others think we are or want us to be? It is based on comparisons with other people. Is it based on comparisons with other people? Does it change depending on who is with us? Today we can choose to let our inner voice and our higher power tell us who we are. No matter where we are or who we're with, we can make a conscious effort to retain our healthy, whole self-image. We don't suddenly become children because our parents are in the room. We aren't incompetent failures at life because someone successful and happy walks by. The presence of someone who once hurt us with unkind words needn't trigger self-hate in us. We can remember that we are the only ones who can choose our self-image. It says, I choose to see my highest, best self with my higher power's help. Listen, I know this book says higher power a lot, and some of you might feel very uncomfortable with the word higher power because it indicates the presence of God, and some of you may not believe in God, and that's fine. I was an atheist for at least 8 years. I understand. I grew up with an atheist father. I understand what that feels like to hear that word. You're like, ugh. To this day, I'm telling you, I'm not like, I would say I'm leaning into more like, I love Jesus and I love, some of these concepts. I no longer am an LDS person. I'm not going to, go into my thoughts or feelings about the LDS church because I have a lot of LDS family and friends, but because I'm looking at my own experience and the thing is that it is hard to lean into a higher power, and self-image is such a difficult subject because you are your worst critic, and if you have lost your faith in any kind of higher power, sometimes you become nihilistic and think, what's the point? Everything's futile. I'm going to die and I'm going to just leave this planet and there's going to be nothing. Sometimes we have to pretend. That's what I've had to do as somebody who's been formerly atheist. I had to pretend sometimes to have a higher power. Sometimes it's just the sun. When I'm driving to get my daughter from Mount Pleasant, it's like I'm just talking to the sun in the clouds. And I imagine myself, the words coming out of my mouth, and I'm setting it on that cloud. Or I think of the pensieve from Harry Potter, where he taps the wand to his temple and he pulls out this string, this silvery string, and drops it in this little like shimmery bowl. And that's where all the memories go. So whatever image it requires, it could be a journal. Your journal could be your higher power because you're writing it out, you're getting it out of your body. You could even, I know it's a weird concept, make your therapist your higher power. But I would be careful with that because that's still a person. We want to be careful with how we make people into our higher powers because other people are also dealing with their own problems and their own perspectives and their own rose-colored glasses. Whereas the higher power concept is open and sees above, has a bird's eye view of everything that you're dealing with. And it may not make sense, but it helps me with my self-image when I'm feeling like there's no point in anything, when I've had suicide ideations, when I've had all these things. That higher power just takes that from me. And sometimes the way that I connect is through music. So I'll go and I have a playlist called Recover. If you want a link to that, I can send it to you. It's on Spotify. And it turns my mind around and it helps me connect to my higher power more, my God, whatever that looks like. Because it's singing and saying the words that I can't say for myself. And it helps it validates my self-image. But I'm also much better at validating my own self-image. But that takes a lot of practice. And therapy. Let's not forget that. Like, I'm not just saying, oh yeah, only depend on your higher power, but don't go to therapy. Your higher power it might be the right move for you to go to therapy. But again, I can't speak for anybody but myself. But I just know for me that therapy has been one of the greatest combo tools with my higher power. Because I take what I'm learning in therapy and I take it to my higher power. And that relationship is so personal and so precious that nobody can change that for you. Only you can create that within yourself. You know, my husband says that like hell is within us, or heaven. I'm paraphrasing him, but like I make my own heaven. So if I make my own heaven, then hell is within me as well. And people have lived through hell within their own selves. You know, anyway, self-image, very, very interesting concept. There's a lot that goes into that. I know this is getting long. I'm getting there. Drawing lines. As codependents, we may feel we'd reach the limit of our ability to accept another's behavior toward us. We may have declared, this is the last time. All right, I'm just checking my time. Oh, hold on. Let's see. Yeah, I got to go here in a second. This is the last time. Then the next came along. We rationalized, excused, ignored, and accepted again. We may have done this over and over in a relationship. It is our responsibility to take care of ourselves and to do what is necessary for our well-being. That may mean setting some limits in relationships and sticking to them. It may mean changing our old habits of reaction to another's behavior. It may mean leaving a relationship. In a calm state of mind, perhaps with a counselor or a spiritual advisor, we can determine reasonable limits of acceptable behavior. Then we can back ourselves up with whatever action is necessary to support our decision. It is my right and responsibility to take care of myself. That's the bottom one. So, drawing lines, that's a hard one. You know, when is the last straw? When are you done? You know, and I'm still figuring that out for myself. However, my biggest caveat to that is if the other person I'm dealing with, whether, you know, with a child, that's different. However, a child gets to a point, right, where like they're old enough that they should know better, right? Because I've seen, you know, parents have estranged from their children have estranged from their parents. I've done the same with my own parents. So, like, because I'm an adult, right? But as a child, hopefully, and there have been parents who abandoned their children, right? Literally abandoned them. But for me, I'm not going to abandon my kid just because she makes a mistake or just because she does repeatedly frustrating things. that are like the same shit different day. I can't abandon her because it's my job to continue to find resources for her, therapy, mentorship, take breaks from her, send her to her grandparents, find ways to repair with her. That's my job with her, is to help her figure that out and to help her create emotional stability. And that's hard when you're learning to create your own. I can continue to put the boundary down. Hey, I already said no. That's not happening today. You can either accept it or not. I'm not going to control how you react or respond to that, but I'm telling you, that doesn't change the no. You must learn to accept the no the first time, even though you didn't accept it the first 5 times. I don't know. But when it comes to relationships, right? Like, we can end a friendship, we can end a marriage, we can end a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, whatever, girlfriend-girlfriend relationship, whatever that looks like. When is it, this is a impasse, we cannot go any further. But my thought is, if that person you're with is willing and is actionably doing something about it, whether it be getting a mentor of some kind, a coach, a therapist, hopefully. I think therapy is probably my favorite, but a coach and a mentor is also good too. But therapists are a little more qualified to actually go through the actions with you. I don't know how to put that, but a coach is great for like self-motivation and other things. They fill in the gaps that the therapist may not have time to fill in for you. And so I feel like, if that person is actively trying with you, even if the conversations you're having are so frustrating to deal with, and that you're sad and upset and like you don't know what to do, like me taking a break from my argument with my husband last night was a perfect example of that. I didn't have the capacity anymore to deal with that. But it doesn't make him wrong. It doesn't make his feelings wrong. It doesn't make my feelings wrong. It just means I'm tired and I've drawn the line. But drawing the line doesn't have to be so swung one way or the other. It doesn't mean I'm done and I'm breaking up. It means I'm just done with that for tonight. Because that's what I would say to my child. And I wouldn't abandon her. So like that's something. Thanks for sticking with me through this really long live. I'm going to end today. And I'll come back to this a different day. But I just really love this book. I hope you got something out of this. I hope that you think about that today. And if you have any questions or just want to chat about this, feel free to reach out to me. I may be in a session with the client, but I'd love to discuss this further with anybody who stuck through this video with me. I see my husband's on. Hi. I love you too. Something I love about Chris is that if I come publicly and share certain things, I don't air my dirty laundry with him on the internet, but I'll be general, like I've been today. Something I love about him is that he doesn't get upset with me when I do that. And so it's really cool to have a person that, understands that. And as frustrating as some of our conversations can be, just because we're such different people, at the core, he is doing his best with me and doing what he can. And sometimes he comes to me completely unprompted and has an insight for me, or a realization about a conversation we had much later. So it's cool. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting or helpful. I'm not an expert. I'm just learning through experience, and I just want to share it with people, what I'm learning. So if you have any thoughts, feelings, questions, just send me a message. I'd love to talk about it. Okay, bye.